What was that, Ollie?
Like, we just got here, and I mean, it could have been like a howl or something. It sounded like a scream.
Coming from...
Already. Right down. I don't know.
Let's take a look.
I think actually Ollie filmed it too. Back tire coming off the ground and everything. I was like, yeah! It's gonna be a good shot. Got low ones you can see on the truck.
So just down over here, Ollie?
Yeah, it was in this direction. It could be a coyote or...
Oh, you saw something down here?
No, heard like a howl or a scream.
And it's funny, like when Pete and I came up here in the summer doing the same kind of thing we're doing now, it was right around here, we heard a whistle. And whistling is what Wendigos are supposed to do, to kind of like lure you out kind of thing.
That's one thing I'd be pretty freaked out if I heard.
A whistle in the dark.
Whistle?
Somebody told me at work, they were camping once, they're sitting around a fire, and he could hear him, he was like, someone kept calling my name, like just in the shadows, like whispering my name, and I was like, you didn't go answer it, did you? And he's like, no. Good. So you're you. He's like, what does that mean? And so I told him Chris's story, man, and he was like, whoa. Because he was like, I was tempted. I thought it sounded like me calling me. I was like, oh, okay.
So Wendigos are known to lure you out by mimicking people that you love. It's like...
It's part of the lore, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Neat. Well, let's get our gear, get set up, and have us some fun.
It's gonna be dark for another hour yet.
Gives us time to get ready.
It's stocked, and my grandma did it, and then she gave it to me, and I sanded it down and stained it like this really cool blue color. I got into the, and then I traded it once the registration went out. Though I traded it.
All right, Ollie. So this is where Pete and I were in the summer, trying to get a hold of this Wendigo spirit that some homeowners up here saw. We got some stuff on the spirit box, but like spirit boxy stuff, not so much Wendigo stuff.
Okay.
The closest thing we got was like that whistling I mentioned, which is supposed to be part of Wendigo lore. So I'm hoping though, that was like in the heat of summer, was not dark. So we're up here at night. We got some bag of tricks we can put into play, right? Like we've got our laser grid, we've got some trigger objects we can set up, and I want to do the Estes method.
Okay.
So, because that's basically, I envision you could have the spirit box on with your headphones on, and I'll just start asking questions, and obviously you'll just say whatever comes through.
So I'm the speaker.
You're the speaker for whatever spirit in the woods. Now, the risk of that, I'm not going to lie here, is that Wendigos are supposed to possess people and turn them into kind of cannibalistic monsters. So, are you still cool with that?
I guess so. I'm here.
You're here. You brought a rifle. Sean can shoot us both if we get possessed by anything. But I figured this is just our best chance at trying to see if there is really a Wendigo spirit up in these woods.
Okay, hopefully we can draw it out.
That's the plan. Although, as that article said, if we do draw it out, we're in trouble.
Yeah, apparently we're not supposed to try to.
No, it's a bad thing. And on my trip up to Edmonton, came across it, the last thing you want to do. But we're investigators. We need to do some kind of on-the-ground field investigation where people say they've seen one. And this is a good opportunity.
Well, if he's out there, let's find it.
That's right. Let's do it. All right.
Caught!
In 2024, the Canadian Paranormal Society received word of a Wendigo sighting in a rural community in the interior of British Columbia, Canada. This came as a surprise to us, given stories about a cannibalistic monster roaming the woods in search of prey. Human prey aren't associated with our neck of the woods, if you'll pardon the pun. All right, time to go look into that alleged Wendigo sighting up in Paul Lake that Jason and Carla told me about. Gonna go pick up my buddy Pete, Canadian Paranormal Society co-founder. We're gonna go up and see what we can find out if there is indeed maybe a Wendigo up there. But we'll find out soon enough. Wish us luck. Paul Lake Road. Location where Wendigo allegedly seen. We'll see what we find.
When no one else would look. Been tracking signs for weeks, following cold leads, but something in your voice makes me believe
comes to monsters, Sasquatch and lake monsters like Ogopogo are far more common in our region, with tales of the Wendigo spoken in hushed voices in the neighboring province of Alberta. But Peter Renn, Olivier Asselin, and myself decided to follow up on this rare opportunity to investigate a part of North American folklore that has its origins in Canada. What we soon discovered was the Wendigo is more than just a series of monster sightings or an unclassified cryptid, nor is it simply a cautionary tale told to keep children in their beds at night. Its origins are one part nightmare and another part true crime story, one that's far more gruesome and terrifying than any story Hollywood could ever dream up. And it exists in our backyard. My name is Jason Hewlett, and I'm a paranormal investigator, researcher, and author. I'm the co-founder of the Canadian Paranormal Society alongside my friend and colleague, Pete Renn. We primarily investigate residential, commercial, and heritage site hauntings, but also explore cases involving cryptids and unidentified flying objects, or UAPs. I became involved in the Wendigo after completing work on the Small Town Monsters documentary Cursed Waters, Creature of Lake Okanagan, and the accompanying book, The Legend of Ogopogo, Canada's Loch Ness Monster. Once the dust had settled from Ogopogo, I found myself wanting to take another deep dive into a cryptid-related topic. I was scrolling through the internet one day, digging into the Cadborosaurus legend, which relates to a sea monster off the coast of British Columbia, and the story of the Wendigo. Although I love sea and lake monsters, I was drawn deep into the dark heart of the Wendigo folktale. I'd first encountered the Wendigo legend as a boy. Like many youths of my generation, I was a comic book nerd, and one of my favorite comics was The Incredible Hulk. Issue 162 in particular attracted my attention. It came out in April of 1973 and featured the Hulk trading blows with a large, white, hairy monster. Text on the cover read, "In the wilds of Canada, Old Greenskin takes on the weird, way-out Wendigo, the thing that walks like a man." The Wendigo was so cool, I ended up drawing my own interpretations in comics I was creating at the time. I thought the Wendigo was one of the best bad guys to grace the pages of Marvel Comics. What I didn't realize at the time is the Wendigo wasn't a comic book villain at all, but a creature pulled from Indigenous legend, one that's also well documented in not only historical records, but the annals of Canadian criminal law. So from your experience, what exactly is a Wendigo?
The Wendigo is the most fearsome and deadliest legend, creature, spirit to ever set foot in North America. It began with the First Nations people of Canada. They knew this thing by many different names, many different spellings, and in many different regions. And it quickly spread its way to the Great Lakes region of America and the eastern, northern section as well. And it could show up in many forms. The Wendigo could show up in a flesh and blood form. It was always thought to be gigantic, 8 feet tall or as big as it wanted to be. Always seemed to be thin, skeletal, emaciated. Sometimes it was missing its own mouth and lips because it was said to have an insatiable hunger for human flesh. And when no prey was around, it would consume its own body to stay alive. It was thought that its heart was encased in ice, that it was the embodiment of winter, of starvation, of ice, that it only walked in straight lines because it could, nothing could stop it. But for me, even scarier, it was said that it could show up in a spirit form, lurk out into the deep forest, waiting for some unsuspecting person to come by, and then it would infect them in a way where it would slowly turn them into a Wendigo as well. So there were many different forms the Wendigo could show up as. And it's been around for hundreds of years, so long that we don't even know the origin story. Where it came from, how it came to be, has been lost to history.
Intrigued by the idea that such a creature has been seen near our hometown, I decided to meet with the witnesses. Hesitant to appear on film, we met at a bowling alley, but I was allowed to record audio of our interview.
It was 2 weeks before my brother passed. My brother had an addiction, and that's what he died from. He was struggling, he was clean, but he was starting to slip again. And so the stress, we were all under stress because we were trying to get him help, but rehab is so expensive. I was coming home late night from my sister-in-law's. There was this thing, it looked like a moose standing on its hind legs in a cloak.
Okay.
And I was like, am I seeing this right? And then I looked around to see if like maybe lights were behind me, just anything. And when I looked back, it was gone.
Not wanting to tackle this case unprepared, I turned to someone who knows a thing or two about the Wendigo, an Alberta-based paranormal investigator and researcher named Morgan Knudsen, for help.
I was introduced to the Wendigo phenomenon, interestingly enough, through stories when I was a kid, and never really put too much stock in anything like that. You'd hear the stories in children's books and whatnot, and never thought that anything like that could possibly be real until I was in Edmonton and surely learned later that the Swift Runner case in St. Albert was mere 20 minutes from my door. So there was a lot to learn. Being a resident of Alberta, you quickly learn that this is something that is all over the place.
What is a Wendigo?
Depending on the culture that you're approaching, the Wendigo can be something very different. We have a number of First Nations communities here, including the Cree, the Dene, the Métis, and what's really interesting is that many of them describe this thing differently. But the one thing they all describe that is the same is that this entity, this creature has this very skeletal frame. Oftentimes its internal organs are even actually falling out. Some cultures describe that the lips have been chewed off because this thing is so ravenously hungry, and that it's an entity born of famine, of depression, of isolation, and that it roams oftentimes the wilderness, particularly in winter months, looking for food to satiate some just absolute ravenous hunger.
And there's kind of a couple different descriptions of it, right, Morgan? Can you explain how the description seems to vary from almost region to region?
The description of the Wendigo does vary from region to region. We've heard everything from these sort of short type creatures that have sort of scraggly long hair and long claws, to these tall, inescapably tall beings, upwards between 8 to 20 feet in height, incredibly rail thin, regardless of the height description. And they can either be an external entity, like an external creature, or in the early stages, it's said for them to actually be a human that evolves into one of these things. So depending on where its life cycle sits, so to speak, the description can differ there as well.
How did the Wendigo legend begin?
There's really no specific tale that begins the Wendigo legend. This is something that was passed down in tales before anybody was actually writing these things down. So we don't actually know at what point this started, but we do know that it is extremely, extremely old.
Morgan lives in Edmonton, which is in the heart of where the Wendigo story went from being an Indigenous folktale to part of not only Western culture, but criminal history.
I was introduced to the Wendigo phenomenon as an Indigenous person. There's a lot of folklore and oral history around Wendigo. Generally speaking, we're really not supposed to talk about it or engage it. It's just something that is dangerous for humans and us to be around. So we try to avoid it at all costs. We don't talk about Wendigo just because it is dangerous. So really just talking about it, I try to talk about it with my uncle, for example, and he feels very uncomfortable and he just won't even talk about it at all just because it is so dangerous. I'm not sure where it's so I don't want to say taboo, but maybe taboo to talk about it. We just don't even talk about reasons why. You just don't talk about it. From my knowledge, Wendigo is, it preys on people who are feeling unwell or vibrating at a low frequency. It preys on desperation. If you're not in a good mind space, it can definitely impact how you're feeling and make you do unkind things to others. Wendigo is a combination of physical and non-physical. Just based on what I've seen, I don't know what I saw. What I saw was physical, but it definitely, I was able to see it. So I think it has components of both.
Yeah, it's my favorite legend or folklore ever to study is the Wendigo.
The Wendigo isn't strictly Canadian, although the majority of encounters in history are here in Alberta and all the way into Ontario. But you get these cases in the Midwest as well. There's places all through Wisconsin, people that have reported them there, because this is mainly an Algonquin tradition and story. So you see these in various places, but mostly where there's an Indigenous population and it's pretty cold.
It became clear to me that in order to do the Wendigo story justice and to conduct a proper investigation into our local Wendigo sighting, I needed to join Morgan in Edmonton to investigate the Swift Runner story firsthand. Pete and Olivier had prior commitments and were unable to join me. Fortunately, Morgan's Supernatural Circumstances co-host, Michael Brown, has a film background and was able to meet me in Edmonton and help us investigate this case. Once settled in Edmonton, I connected with Morgan and Michael, and we dug into the Wendigo legend in general and the Swift Runner case in particular, which Morgan has thorough knowledge of.
Swift Runner was a Cree trapper and tracker here in Alberta that began in Tatna Valley, and his story was actually, did go down in legal history in Alberta as the first legal hanging here in the province. And how that ended up happening was that he showed up at the Lacombe Mission in St. Albert, where Father Lacombe had put up residence, and the mission knew him quite well. They knew him from being a guide and things like that. Everybody really liked him. And he was a strapping guy, huge, 200 pounds, 6'4". And the one night in the spring, it was about April, he showed up at the mission's door, banging on the door, saying that he was starving, that his family had passed away due to starvation over a horrible winter and they had no food. So Father Lacombe and the other missionaries there, they let him in, and they soon were watching very, very strange behavior. First of all, this guy didn't look like he'd lost any weight. He was huge. He still had, his 200-pound frame. He didn't seem stressed at all, other than the fact that he was telling this horrible story. And at nighttime, they were reporting him screaming that this creature, a Wendigo, which they had barely heard of at this point, was trying to get in the window to kill him, and he was having these horrific night terrors. So eventually, after a number of weeks at the mission, there were some red flags that were set off with these fathers that were there. And when he offered to take some of the children that were there on a hiking trip, all their red flags went off, and they realized something's not right here. Where is this guy's family? So they ended up calling the Northwest Mounted Police at that point, who came down and ordered Swift Runner to actually take them to the camp. Where was your camp that you guys had said you had so much trouble? And he ended up leading them on this wild goose chase all over the area. Now, this was something that they ended up solving with a certain type of plug tobacco, where they drugged him up on a specific type of tea, and almost like a truth serum. And he ended up finally taking them to this remote camp. It turned out he'd actually been thrown out of his village at the time the story varies as to why, but when they got to this camp, the Northwest Mounted Police found a horrific sight. They found the children and the adults that had been with the camp. The number has varied depending on what historical account you take and read, But at the end of it, they found bones littered everywhere. There were skulls cracked open, bones with the marrow sucked out. They found human fat wiped on the trees, on the tree trunks, because they had been boiled down and cooked and eaten. And there were teeth marks in the bones that they collected. And it is said that when they arrested him, when they were out at this camp, he went out into the middle of the frozen lake and began to howl like what they described like a Wendigo. When they arrested him, they brought him back to Fort Saskatchewan, the precinct there, and none of the guards wanted to babysit him in his cell because he was still screaming in the middle of the night that there was a Wendigo that was coming through his window trying to kill him. The guards, oddly enough, actually got along with him, and on the final day when they were going to hang him, the trial was very short. He was found guilty. And when they were going to hang him, it was said that he was actually frustrated that they couldn't hurry up with the noose because he was cold. It was too cold out, and he wanted to get on with it. So they ended up hanging him, and his body was disposed of somewhere in the grounds, and nobody knows where that is.
Having heard the story of Swift Runner, Morgan, Mike, and I decided to venture to the Tatna Valley to see where Swift Runner committed his crimes firsthand. We traveled 70 kilometers north of Edmonton, 43 miles from my American friends, into an area known for its scenic views and outdoor activities. The location we sought was off the main highway and down a series of dirt roads. We eventually stopped near an old church that seemed to be in the middle of nowhere.
It's hard to believe that, in this area is where such a horrific murder actually happened. So right now we're standing in this, first of all, this incredible environment just here in Alberta. This is Tatna Valley, and this is where Swift Runner actually committed the horrific murder of his family. So from here, he actually journeyed to St. Albert and followed the Sturgeon River. But it's amazing to think that something so egregious happened in this space, because it's so peaceful, it's so quiet, it's such a beautiful place to live now, and it's almost like the history has kind of been glossed over here very, very much. It's grown in, as the grasses and the trees and the environment will say, but this is a lot different story in the wintertime when it's -50, it's really, really cold here, and this is all white, this is all snow that just goes for miles and miles and miles. So, it's an amazing, amazing place, and it's incredible how history can kind of be overgrown as the world and the landscape changes. We don't know specifically where it occurred. All we have is the crime scene photos from Swift Runner's case and legal trial that the Northwest Mounted Police captured upon finding his camp. So we don't know specifically where it is, but it would be somewhere probably pretty close to here. These stories are an intrinsic part of Alberta. As people have come and settled here of all races and all cultures, I think this is something that people do need to be aware of. This is the history of Alberta and the legal history of Alberta. This was the first legal hanging in the province, and here it's a story that is really, really unforgettable, and it has a lot of lessons behind it. So we'll make the next leg of our journey and see where it takes us.
Standing in this place where such a horrific crime was committed, even more than a century later, it wasn't hard to imagine the sense of isolation and, in the middle of a Canadian winter, desolation one would have experienced during frontier times. Nor was it hard to believe that a story like the Wendigo would find traction outside of the Indigenous tribes it originated in.
I wrote this in the book that when Kevin and I were trying to find Swift Runner's winter quarters, I was standing there and just thinking, putting myself in the shoes of Swift Runner's last child, his son, the only one that remained after he had killed and eaten all of his other family members, and just thinking of being in that kid's position of knowing he was next, knowing that his father, the only person that could protect him, was the evil that was coming for him, and there was nothing he could do. And it really took me back. I had been to a lot of places of serial killer residents and places where untimely deaths and murders have happened and suicides and the like. So I thought I was immune to a lot of that, but something hit me very hard in the forest there looking for Swift Runner, to the point where I kind of jokingly say that even when I'm back here in Wisconsin, when the cold wind blows through me, it takes me right back to that location of feeling for that young child that, was eventually killed and eaten by his father.
Day 3, we are in St. Albert, reteaming with Alicia, just to talk about how St. Albert is related to the Wendigo story. We're on kind of following the trail of Swift Runner now, so after St. Albert, we're going to go to Fort Saskatchewan, where he was hung. But first, really great church, as you can see behind me.
We're in St. Albert right now, and we're standing on the land with the original Father Lacombe mission. And the significance of this place is twofold. First of all, this is the oldest standing wood structure in Alberta, which is pretty amazing in and of itself, but it's got a really interesting history as well. So Father Lacombe was actually the man who answered the door to Swift Runner when he came knocking, claiming that he had starved throughout the winter, that his family had starved to death and he had nowhere to go. Now, when he showed up here, what was really throwing a lot of the people off, the priests, was that here this man was 200 plus pounds, he was 6'4", and he didn't look like he'd lost a drop of weight, and yet his family, he was saying, had starved to death in this terrible winter. Well, another discrepancy was the fact that this winter hadn't been that bad. There was game. So this is a really interesting piece of the puzzle in the Swift Runner story. And it was said that he spent numerous nights here screaming that the Wendigo was actually coming through the window trying to kill him. So this has got a really interesting history in regards to the Swift Runner story, but it also puts a new piece in the puzzle in and of itself. Many people believe that Wendigo cannibalism was something that happened when people were starving to death, when they didn't have any choice. And Swift Runner actually proved the rule wrong. So this is a really interesting case psychologically as well. He didn't have lack of food. He had choice, and yet he still chose to horribly murder and eat his family. A lot of the places in Alberta, a lot of the towns are named after religious figures and fathers that had actually come to settle here. But the Wendigo story itself doesn't really come up. Most people don't know about it. This is a subject that people are very careful about talking about here, and maybe for really good reason. So many times the stories don't come up, but boy, did the stories come up for them when they got here. So many of the fathers that these towns are named after, Father Lacombe, Leduc, and many others, they were witnesses to Wendigo possessions and Wendigo cases, which is something that's really interesting and many people in Alberta still don't know.
Also of interest is the connection Alicia Perot-Warner has, not only to the area, but to the Swift Runner story itself, which she shared on the walk to Father Lacombe's gravesite.
My parents were married in this church. My grandparents were buried in this cemetery, and our services held here, so this is a special place for us.
And your grandfather's role.
And my grandfather.
And actually building this.
My grandfather, Adolphe Perot, my great-great-grandfather, helped build the basement of this church when he moved here in 1868 with the Oblates and Father Lacombe.
Wow. Amazing. And interestingly, too, he had he was here during that time period
was.
of Swift Runner.
He
right?
was, yeah. At that point, he'd been here for 11 years, and he had married my great-great-grandma and a Métis woman from Northwest Territories, and they settled in the St. Albert area and lived actually really close by. They were the original river lot owners on 16, which is close to Big Lake, not far from here. So they definitely would have been involved in the community.
Yeah.
My great-great-grandfather was also a volunteer for the Northwest Mounted Police around the same time that the Swift Runner case happened.
Yeah, which it makes you wonder, like, was he involved? Did he even know him?
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I get the feeling he probably did. I mean, this wasn't a huge community.
Yeah, no, it was a very small and tight-knit community, so everybody knew everybody. He was very involved with the Oblates and the fathers who lived in the mission here. So I have a very, very strong suspicion that if he wasn't involved, and no, he at least, at the very minimum, knew about what happened.
Yeah, I mean, here's somebody with the Northwest Mounted Police. The Father Lacombe here, he essentially phoned 911 when he realized something was wrong.
Exactly.
With their house guest. And Swift Runner was really well known. I mean, this was a guy who was a trapper, he was a guide,
Yeah.
and I mean, he was known in the community. So I think it's fascinating and a little bit creepy that there's a connection there.
Absolutely.
That he may have known all of this and maybe witnessed some of this
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about how he ended up here? Because he was originally in the church, right? So what happened? How did he get here?
So Father Lacombe, Father Leduc, and Bishop Grandin were all originally interned in the main church, the brick building that we passed on the way in. And so they were interned in the basement. And I want to say approximately 2 or 3 years ago, the basement has sustained some damage and there was some water leakage. So the church made the decision to move the 3 fathers out to the cemetery, the main cemetery here. And so that's where they've been laid to rest now.
It's really interesting. Yeah. And who knew that he had such a history? And then the Father Leduc is right behind him.
Exactly.
Here, and Father Grandin as well. So
they were all moved at the same time.
And Leduc, for everybody watching, is about 45 minutes outside of Edmonton. So Edmonton is the capital city, and Leduc is about 45 minutes out, and was actually the place that I was raised a long time ago. And it used to be a very, very small town. Now it's a little bit more of a city. And Father Grandin's name comes up often in Edmonton as well. There's actually a light rail system, which is like a subway. One of the stations is Grandin Station. It's one of the main stations. So again, we see these names throughout major centers.
Absolutely.
Once arrested, Swift Runner was then taken to the Northwest Mounted Police Precinct at Fort Saskatchewan.
So we're here at Fort Saskatchewan Precinct, which is essentially the reproduction of the original Fort Saskatchewan that was here. And I'm standing in front of one of the Red River carts. And the significance of the Red River cart is the fact that when Swift Runner was actually brought from the St. Albert Mission, arrested and brought into Fort Saskatchewan, he was carted in on one of these. And they ended up hauling him all over this area of Alberta as he lied and twisted tales about where exactly his family had been murdered and eaten. So one of these carts went all over the place in the middle of winter. You can imagine what level of slog that was over however many days before they actually got him to confess by giving him some it was tobacco plug and whatnot, different types of tea in order to elicit a confession from him. So one of these carts, needless to say, brought Swift Runner to Fort Saskatchewan, where he would go and stand trial. Where we're standing right now is a replication of the guard room, which is where prisoners were kept when they were brought into Fort Saskatchewan and awaiting trial. This is a building similar to what Swift Runner would have been kept in. And when you go inside, you can see how tiny these cells actually are. They're no more than a few feet wide by a few feet long, with a bed in the middle of that. So you can imagine what a over 200 pound, 6'4", 6'5" guy was feeling when he's trapped into one of these little cells. And the guards who were stationed to watch him didn't even want to watch him. They were so frightened of the fact that he was yelling and screaming and having these night terrors, still saying that there was a Wendigo going to come through the window and was trying to attack him. So you can imagine what was going through the guard's head as they were trying to stay overnight watching their prisoner. So it was in a building like this where all of this took place. During that time period, this was the Northwest Mounted Police first experience with anything like this. Swift Runner's story, when they discovered that he'd eaten his family, really horrified everybody, to the point where it was in a written journal that one of the guards here was expressed that he was literally too afraid of what was going on and what he was experiencing to even stay with Swift Runner. So the idea that, this was a brand new thing for many of these guards. Many of them were very young and they were just starting out as officers. So this was a brand new experience for a lot of them. We're standing right now in one of the guard towers in Fort Saskatchewan and overlooking the original layout of the fort. And you can see out here we have the logs that have been set up marking the gates as to where the original gates were into the fort, and then the four corners of the fort itself. So after Swift Runner was hung, he wasn't buried like most prisoners. He wasn't buried in a marked grave or anything like that. They were looking to get rid of his body as quickly as possible. So they ended up burying him somewhere on the outskirts of the fort. And right now, the whereabouts of his burial are unknown. This was a prison, so no cremation of the body or anything like that would have happened. They would have buried him somewhere in the outskirts here, but that being said, the ground was also probably frozen, so he may not have been buried too deeply underground. It's hard to say, but the records are unclear as to exactly where Swift Runner was eventually laid to rest.
Yeah, being here, you can really feel the history of the place. Even though it's a replica, you feel you've gone back in time. And you look at the landscape around and just see how barren it is and vast it is. It was a very different world, and I can believe that a case like Swift Runner's it did happen. It's documented that it happened, but that there could be that other supernatural side of it. Well, the Swift Runner case is essentially the Wendigo's origin story. Due to both its historical and criminal law significance, there are plenty of other documented encounters with the entity throughout history, some more fantastical than others.
The story goes that a doctor had moved into this small town and ended up going Wendigo. He isolated himself from his family and ended up turning Wendigo and was eating people and wreaking havoc in Fort Kent.
Considered a hamlet. I think it's been taken over by the MD of Bonnyville. So it is a section of area, I would guess, 50 houses are on. So at the time in the early 1900s, before people traveled by car and it was common to travel by horse, there was a doctor that lived in Fort Kent and he had a family. And legend has it that he went crazy by being possessed by the Wendigo monster and killed his entire family, children including. But then he went out door to door in Fort Kent and killed people who lived in Fort Kent. And it was a big massacre, so much so that they actually picked up and moved the town across where the street is now. So you can, if you're out there, you can actually see where the old town was and then where the new town is. And there's a highway there now, but it wouldn't have been there then. But They took it from like one side of the highway to the other side of the highway.
But interestingly enough, this story was actually proven to be the dreams of a film writer, of a screenwriter, who actually came forward with the story and said, look, this is not real at all. This was something that I wrote long ago. But by the time he did that, a show that used to be on here in Canada called Creepy Canada in the early 2000s had already gotten a hold of the story and spun it as something real on television. So we ended up with this sort of folk story where people began to believe that Fort Kent was actually fact, when in reality it was actually it was a script that never made it to film. So but the story still goes around here in Alberta, and it's pretty interesting.
It all started when ranchers would venture to their stables to feed their horses in the morning, only to find the animals mutilated. Their cattle were found disemboweled in their fields. Once the sun set, otherworldly howls came from the woods behind their homes. If you believe the story, one resident ventured into the night armed with a shotgun, intent on killing whatever it was that preyed on their livestock. He reported seeing a dark shadow with bright glowing eyes darting between the trees.
What I did hear when I was a kid was that like laughing at the northern lights would make you go crazy, and that, you know, you would become demonic and kill people. So I always wondered if there was a tie between the two because of the Indigenous element.
It's interesting to note how a fictional tale about the Wendigo could so quickly be spun as fact once it hit mainstream media. Part of this could attest to how enticing the gruesome nature of the Wendigo is, especially when certain aspects of the legend, like the Swift Runner story, are backed up by legal and historical documentation. Most of the stories that have sprung from northern Alberta are, including 2 from the Slave Lake region.
In Alberta, Wendigo there's been accounts everywhere. Most of the small towns actually in Alberta have names of fathers of missionaries who were involved in Wendigo cases, such as Father Leduc, Father Lacombe. There's been a number. So there's not just the cases that we've come to know in the media, like Swift Runner, but multiple others in Slave Lake, Lesser Slave Lake, Trout Lake, Sandy Lake, St. Albert, you name it. This is a phenomenon that's really widespread here.
Chad Lewis is an author, researcher, and lecturer who wrote the go-to book on the Wendigo, Wendigo Lore. He and co-author Kevin Lee Nelson traveled to northern Alberta and visited Eating Creek and Slave Lake, so I wanted to get his thoughts on what happened here.
Eating Creek outside of Slave Lake is one of those areas that people talked about you do not want to go. It was a cursed area. Avoid it at all costs. And the reason for this, in this case, was that it was thought to be inhabited by a Wendigo. And this wasn't a person turning Wendigo or going Wendigo. By folklore accounts, this was a beast that had already turned into the gigantic Wendigo, and it was eating First Nations people. So many, in fact, that nobody would go to the area. Anytime a white pioneer or a French fur trader or missionary came by, the native peoples would tell them, go there at your own risk. And what's interesting is Eating Creek, also called Mitsu Creek, meaning eating, even though the story continued generation after generation, passing down into the 1900s, there's no finality to it. We don't know what happened. Did they kill the Wendigo? Did it migrate off somewhere else? Or is it still there, waiting for unsuspecting people to walk by? But the story has a beginning, a middle, but no end as to why the Wendigo was there, what its purpose was, and whatever happened to it.
About 11 minutes northwest of Eating Creek is the town of Slave Lake, a community of about 6,000 people that was established during the fur trade of the late 1700s and early 1800s. It's also home to a Wendigo story of its own.
Marie Coutray seemed to be cursed before she even made her way to Slave Lake. She had been married, her husband drowned in a watery grave. By the time she made it to Slave Lake, 5 of her 7 children were already deceased. So she believed that going to Slave Lake would give her a whole new outlook on life, give her better luck. She remarried, but fate had other ideas. Both of her remaining children passed away. And then she fell into a state of turning into a Wendigo, where community members noticed she was withdrawn. She wouldn't talk to people. She seemed to be very tired all the time. And instead of seeing her friends and family as loved ones, she started to see them as tasty meat that she wanted to eat. She started talking about killing and murdering and eating and consuming all of their bodies. Her husband, Michael, and his son, Cecil, thought that they could cure her. For nearly 3 weeks, they worked on her, gave her the best medicine, brought in the best shamans trying to cure her. And this flies in the face of a lot of Wendigo critics who claim that the Wendigo was simply used as a rationale to kill people that were a hardship on the community, that were taking needed resources, the mentally ill, those who suffered a physical impairment, that they would kill them to lessen the burden and blame it on the Wendigo. But this was the exact opposite. They spent weeks of all their time trying to help her, to cure her, so much so that they even tied her up, but she was amazingly able to break out of the binds and ropes that they tied her in.
As the tale goes, unfortunately possessed by one of these Wendigo spirits, and her husband and her son had the difficult choice of deciding whether or not to actually kill her. And eventually they did. They took upon the most gruesome task and they killed her with an axe.
Those who witnessed it said it was a horrific event, that she was on the ground dying for over an hour before her body stopped twitching. For some reason, she was not burned. Her body was simply brought to the outskirts of the encampment and buried in an unmarked grave. Now, this was at a time in Slave Lake where hundreds of people were dying from infectious diseases brought on by the white people. They were dying of starvation. So these the death of this one woman shouldn't have stood out very much. But the white government found out about this. They considered it murder. So they went to Slave Lake and asked Michael and his son, Cecil, to accompany them to Fort Saskatchewan. They thought no harm. We had done our due diligence. We had put our loved one out of suffering, did her a favor, protected the community from becoming a Wendigo. But of course, the white government did not see it that way and put them on trial. They were found guilty. Both of them were sentenced to 6 years in prison for killing of a Wendigo. Now, we don't know exactly where she was buried. Records show that she was buried in a grave out near where Slave Lake, the proper lake, and Slave River meet one another. And there is the Saw Ridge Cemetery out there that contains a lot of First Nations people. And I believe that she was buried somewhere out there, whether it was an unmarked grave or it was once marked and is no longer, I don't know.
There's another Wendigo-related story that ended in arrests, a trial, and national headlines here in Canada. And that's the story of Jack Fiddler.
The Jack Fiddler case is quite fascinating, and this is a family history case that really was designed to show, I think, that if you delve into the subject of the Wendigo, it almost acts like a curse amongst anybody that delves into this subject matter. So there was a chief of the Sucker clan, Chief Porcupine Standing Sideways, and interestingly enough, he ended up chief of the Sucker clan not because he was a part of the clan itself, but because they believed that he seemed to have a magic about him. He was fascinating and he seemed to have powers about him that they couldn't quite explain. So when he became chief, the legend had it that a Wendigo invaded the Sucker clan and he whipped this Wendigo to death. He killed this Wendigo and became known as this Wendigo slayer. When he passed away, the next chief that came about was actually his son Jack Fiddler. And Jack and his son Joseph took on his father's cause, that they believed that they could see these things in dreams, and not only kill the Wendigo in their consciousness, but kill Wendigos in real life. Now, the press got a hold of these stories, and it's unclear how many people turning Wendigo that they actually did kill. But finally, there was a woman who was brought to him as a potential Wendigo victim, and it was one kill too many. And Jack Fiddler and his brother Joseph were actually arrested and brought to trial. Now, interestingly enough, their third brother Peter, during this time period, went Wendigo and was killed himself. He was killed because they thought that he was turning Wendigo. Now, as Jack and Joseph were waiting for trial, the newspaper headlines were going crazy. Everybody was paying attention to this story that this Wendigo slayer was, finally going to court. So everybody was very fascinated. And during one of his leisure hours, Jack had had enough, and he went out into the woods during one of these hours that he had free, and he hung himself in the woods.
Clearly, the Algonquin and Cree nations believed very strongly in the Wendigo, strong enough that they were willing to kill members of their own tribes in order to prevent a friend or loved one from turning into one. At this point, it should be noted that the Wendigo was not considered a monster that roamed the cold Canadian wilderness during the winter times. It took over a person, possessed them, in order to commit these horrible crimes. In fact, the Wendigo wasn't portrayed as a physical being until author and broadcaster Algernon Blackwood penned his novella, The Wendigo, in 1910. This begs the question, is the Wendigo more a form of psychosis than an actual monster? Or is something more paranormal at play here?
My first introduction to the Wendigo was through Wendigo psychosis. I was a undergraduate student in the psychology program, and all through graduate school, I did a lot of research on Wendigo psychosis, which is the idea that a person is suffering from a mental illness, usually accompanied by the idea that they're turning into a Wendigo. They have this insatiable hunger for human flesh, that they don't see their loved ones and friends as family members. They see them as prey, hunting animals, beaver, moose, tasty prey animals that can be consumed. And if someone is suffering from Wendigo psychosis, it is thought that they will be withdrawn. They'll have mental illness going on, obviously thinking that they're turning into a monster, but they might be very tired. They might have personality changes, and they might feel as though their body is starting to freeze up, that ice is taking over their body. And Wendigo psychosis is not a known psychosis. It's not in the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Think of it as the Bible for people in the mental health field. In the mental health field, it is seen more as a culture-bound syndrome, meaning that it's a syndrome that occurs in a specific culture or region or belief system. That we never talk about people down in Florida in the United States who start chewing people's faces and eating people as being the Wendigo. We blame it on bath salts and meth and other drugs. So there's something to that it only occurs in certain areas. Usually the Wendigo has to be accompanied by ice, by cold, by starvation, because the Wendigo would often attack when you were at your weakest, whether that was mentally, physically, or spiritually. That's when it would come after you, much like Eastern idea of demonic possession. Coming after you at your weakest. That's when the Wendigo would prowl. And there were many communities still to this very day that will not say the name of the Wendigo because they believe that merely mentioning this thing is enough to put you on its radar, that when you go looking for the weird will come looking for you. One of the main differences of today's Wendigo stories and legends versus the old ones is the inclusion of antlers or deer horns or big elk-like horns or antlers on its head. The original literature never mentioned any of these, that it was always a bald head or little puffs of fur or hair sticking out of it. But since the 1940s, more and more people find the depiction of the Wendigo with antlers. I've also noticed that in some of the reports I've received, people talk about it as having the ability to mimic their friends and their loved ones' voices. One gentleman told me he was in the woods hunting with his buddy and that he heard his buddy calling out for him. But regardless of how many times he answered, his buddy would not reply back to him. So when the day was over and they met back at camp, he asked his buddy, "Why were you calling out for me and never replying?" His buddy said, "I didn't see you the entire day. It wasn't me." Now, this witness believed it was a Wendigo because he had seen a television show by the name of Supernatural, where there was a Wendigo episode in which that Wendigo could mimic the voices of loved ones. So pop culture has invaded into folklore, where now many believe it did have the ability to mimic, whereas the original literature, if it ever mentioned a Wendigo speaking, it was thought that its voice would paralyze you with fear, that it would make it easier for it to come and grab you. All it had to do is yell or scream, and you'd be paralyzed and frozen and unable to move, and it would come and devour you much easier.
On a late summer night in 2023, Morgan and the Perot-Werner family had an encounter with an entity at a village southwest of Edmonton called Mameo Beach. And this incident provided a unique opportunity for a boots-on-the-ground investigation into the Wendigo phenomenon.
My family and I became close friends with Morgan Knudsen, and we just took ourselves on several adventures with Morgan. And this particular evening, we had received a tip that we should check out the Mameo Beach area. So we honestly had no idea what we were in for that evening, but we're always in for fun and adventure, I would say. So we went out to Mameo Beach, and we were also indicated that we'd want to check out west of Mameo Beach. So again, not having an idea what we were looking for, we took out later in the evening. I think we left town around 10, and we went out to Mameo Beach around 11. So just to give you a little bit of background on Mameo Beach, it is close to an Indian reserve, a First Nation reserve, close to the beach. So it's traditional territory for many Cree people in the area. So going to traditional territory, it was important for me as an Indigenous person to bring protocol and offer a smudge to start off our evening in a good way. So we started out with a smudge. Our thoughts were that we may encounter dogmen in the area. That's what the original tip was, or information that we had received. So we were expecting to see dogman. In the past, we have seen some encounters with this particular entity. So we did our smudge. We had some feelings of dogman in the area, but not as bright of encounters that we had had previously. So we decided to make our way west of Mameo Beach to our original, from where we had originally stopped and did the smudge. And we stopped it. We kind of just found, so interesting, let me just go back a little bit. As we were driving out to Mameo Beach, there was some intense mist and fog along the journey. And it was really, really thick mist. Like you could not see the roads on the side of you. And we just had this feeling that the mist was guiding us somewhere. Whether it was or not, but that's how it felt to us. So we'd get to certain parts and the mist would be gone, and we somehow felt, okay, this isn't the right place. And so we'd kind of follow the mist. So we did our smudge, moved along, kind of didn't have a sense of where we're going, kind of thought, generally we'll go west. That's not an area any of us were familiar with. But again, the mist kind of guided us to this particular area. So, we'd come to a fork in the road. Do we go left? Do we go right? We'd go right because that's where the mist was thicker. So we went along our way. We got to a crossroads and we thought, this seems like a good place to kind of pull over and see what we can feel. And we were facing an open field, and there was a road behind us with some additional trees and things, but we were focused, I don't know what area, we were focused in the open field, and we could hear some yipping, and so we were thinking, usually sometimes when you hear coyotes, it means dogman's in the area. So we'd hear the yipping, and so we were focused in that area for quite some time. And then the sound kind of died down, and we turned around, and the four of us, my husband, my daughter, Morgan, and I, we were really struck by this light that was shining through the forest, and it was so bright and so specific. I don't want to say it was a tunnel of light, but that's kind of what I can describe it as. And as we're looking at this light, we're not sure what we're looking at. Again, in our mind, we're thinking it's a dog man. It must be something like that. So, but then there was a figure in the light that was very odd. It was very stiff. And it wasn't sure, like, it was very still for a long time. So it wasn't sure, like, was it a bush? Like, what exactly am I looking at? And then it started to move, and I'm like, okay, there's something there. And then Morgan said to us, we need to get in the truck and put something between us and whatever we're looking at. This isn't Dogman. So when Morgan Knudsen says, you get in the truck, you get in the truck. Like, that's it. We got in that truck. We're all quite, like, our hearts were pounding. We weren't sure what we were looking at. So my husband then backed the truck around because we wanted to focus the headlights onto what we had just seen. And the light and the figure were totally gone. Completely gone. The trees looked different. Everything looked completely different than what we had witnessed. And we were all silent, but giggling, but it was a shock. It was something that, you know, how many months later is it? 10 months later? My math's not the greatest, but 10 months later, it's something that is still so etched in my memory that I will never forget it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I remember exactly where it is. Yep, there is nothing there, nothing.
Just solid trees.
Solid trees.
But I would have sworn we were looking at.
No, would have sworn it was like a hollow thing in the trees.
It's so strange.
No, I can picture it exactly.
Well, do you want to hold the bundle? We'll do that at the end of the smudge.
So what is the smudge for, Alicia?
So the smudge, I'm smudging with sage tonight, and it's really just to, we'll do a prayer in Cree and in English, and it's just to start our evening off in a good way and to make sure we are carrying on with good intentions and seeing things with clear eyes, speaking with kind words, and really just paying respect to Mother Nature, to each other, and to those that we may encounter tonight. So it's really just honoring our heritage and starting things off in a good way. And so we'll smudge with sage, and we'll also make an offer of tobacco. And as I said earlier, tobacco is the first medicine for Indigenous people, and it is an offering to Mother Earth and to physical and non-physical beings in order just to thank them for our presence here tonight and to have some reciprocity. So we're giving and not just taking in anything we may experience tonight. It's just our offering.
And wait for this to go by. And that's important, isn't it? That kind of that almost is like a, for lack of a better word, preemptive in terms of anything negative happening or that we don't want to have happen to us.
Absolutely. We definitely, sage is one of the women's medicine also, so it's close to my heart. So it's protective, and it'll just keep positive intentions for us. And overall, I feel it grounds me when I go into any type of situations like this. So we'll likely offer a smudge at the beginning and also at the end of the night, just to clear any energy that we may encounter along the way.
Perfect.
Do you know what that kind of? So this is the sage we used that night. I specifically brought this because I feel like it brought us good luck that night. I don't know if you remember, we told you this, but when we started the smudge, we started it at Mamio Beach, so a couple kilometers down the road. And I didn't want the smudge to go out because sometimes it's tricky to get a nice smudge going. So I held it out the window as we were driving to this location, and a cloud of smoke was coming out of the truck. People probably didn't think it was sage, but we pretty much saged all of Mamio Beach for a couple kilometers down to this location. So maybe we should do it again tonight if we're not having good luck.
Jason, I can hold the camera.
Yeah.
For you.
So I've never done this before. So
Okay, so first you're going to wash your hands.
Okay.
Use the hand just as if you were washing your hands in the smoke. And then you'll cusp some of the smoke and bring it to your eyes. and that's to see the world clearly. And now grab the smoke and take it to your ears to hear with clear intentions. And now to your mouth and your nose, and breathe in the smoke, and that's to speak with kind words. Now you can do it to your heart. Again, just setting positive attention. And now over the top of your head, just over your back. And now you can grab some and just run it down your body.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to go on that side?
Actually, I was going to say that'd be great if we could. Yeah, I think that would be great.
I think that would make the most sense.
We'll just make sure we don't get run over by a truck.
I'm just gonna put just go down in the ditch here, kind of where we saw it. Yeah. And we'll also just, I'm gonna smudge this area too.
Yeah. Can you stay up there as well?
Sure.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
What's that?
Might they come in near the fence?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, after the prayer, and then you can place the tobacco, okay?
Where am I putting it? Okay.
Just put on this little path here.
Yeah.
Something's been back and forth through here. Yeah. No sabi nan. Kitskisiko kaya yan. Kinanas kumit na no miya ko makisikaw. So creator, we offer this tobacco, not Tabasco. we offer this tobacco to you to honor these lands and to honor the physical and non-physical beings who also share this space with us. You can open it. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I did a good one. You could just pull the fabric out too. There you go.
Just let it go?
Yeah, so just go in there and sprinkle it.
Where's what? Yeah.
Hi. So anybody who shares the space with us, we just welcome you to present yourself throughout the night in a gentle way. And we're here to learn from you and to experience anything you're willing to share. Hi. What's that?
So this is the location where they saw the Wendigo, and it certainly is barren. But you can kind of see, like, there's nothing back here that would create any sort of light anomaly, which I find really quite interesting. And so, Derek, you said that was the pole that you ended up seeing?
Yeah.
When you turned the vehicle around?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't there.
That was, once when the light was there, you couldn't see the pole, but as soon as I turned the truck around and the light dissipated, we could see that pole very clearly. And as you see, it's all, we knew about the road, but we can see it's all thick forest there.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing there
No,
that could cause a light that, like, what you're talking about.
See, even this looks like too close. Like, it's kind of big, like this little spot here, but the light was more over to this side.
Yeah, there's nothing here that would cause. I can't see anything that would reflect that bright.
No. There's a house back here, and you can see the lights on the house. It's like little tiny pinpricks of light, like you would see it in the distance, right? And I know there's a house on the other side over here, but it's kind of more of that direction. So that's not even in line of where you would see it.
Having heard the account, I felt it was essential to travel to Mameo Beach and investigate further. It was on our drive to the beach that the encounter took a dramatic turn.
Oh, cemetery.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
You get that?
Yeah, I'll try. Yeah, there's not a lot of.
What the hell?
It looks like
Oh, we're seeing it. Is that what it is?
it's native, isn't it?
Alicia says it's a traditional burial
Yeah,
ground.
that's what I thought too.
That's interesting.
Oh,
It's
this
still
is so interesting.
Just on the other.
Still running? Is it
Yeah, it's still running. Just on the other side of what?
Oh,
So, what did Alicia say?
it's a traditional burial ground.
It's a traditional burial ground right over here to the left, or to the right. And
I'm like shook right now.
This is crazy.
Well,
So-
I wasn't expecting that.
but that makes sense that you had that experience just 20 meters away from that.
We first came in and saw the light that night that it happened back in August. We didn't know anything about what was behind those trees. We had no idea. We couldn't even see a road around because it was just so dark. It's country dark here. It's crazy. And we just took a drive down one of the dirt roads to find, and I'll let you explain what it was.
Yeah, so right behind how many feet? 40,
It was like
50,
20 meters.
20 meters behind where we saw the tunnel. We are on First Nation land. It's the Pigeon Lake Reserve that is shared by 4 different First Nations in Alberta. And so about 30 meters from where we saw the tunnel, there's a traditional burial ground there that I had no idea was there. And I'm a little speechless, and that doesn't happen to me very often, but it's very exciting, and it kind of just, I think, gives more credibility to what we saw that night, that it was something special.
So, and you hear a lot. I mean, like Hollywood talks about the burial ground, and there's always something poltergeist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what in reality, what does that mean? Like the idea of something like this happening around a traditional.
Yeah, it's a
burial
sacred
ground.
area where loved ones and ancestors are laid to rest, and it was clear in that area that it was traditional territory. There was a lot of Indigenous memorials set up, and a lot of circles and medicine wheels. So it's a special area. I feel at peace when I see burial grounds. I never feel uneasy. I feel very much at peace. So it is interesting, the tie of the tunnel to that area, though. So there's something special going on there, and I hope we see it again tonight.
At that, we decided to take advantage of this turn of events, return to the burial ground, and take a closer look. So how far in do you think is safe to go?
I think it's okay as long as we're respectful and we have good intentions going in. I think we're okay with that.
We absolutely do.
We totally have good intentions.
We've smudged and everything.
Yeah.
Like not even 20 feet.
We may not.
It's like right there.
Yeah. Yep.
We explored the burial ground, and while I was focusing on the grave markers, Mike Morgan and the family ventured to a corner of the cemetery where it appeared like several fresh plots had been dug. That's when an uneasy feeling overtook the group, especially Mike. EMF meters are designed to measure the strength and frequency of electromagnetic fields, high levels of which can cause people to feel sick and even hallucinate. A high EMF reading could explain why everyone felt uneasy in the one corner of the burial ground.
Feels different to me.
Yeah, there's a vibe shift for sure from over there to here.
Yeah. I feel a little less peaceful over here.
My stomach is getting upset again.
Is it?
Yep.
There's something about this area.
Yeah. There's an uneasiness over in this area. I'm feeling a little on the lightheaded side all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Almost.
you said that I'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, as you come over here, let us know what you're feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't feel well.
Take note of it. I was telling Mike and Jason in the car too, like this is typically where often dogmen are seen as well as the burials, right?
100%.
So it's like a lot of stuff's adding up.
Yeah. When is it ever?
Yeah. You alright?
There's definitely it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not well.
As we were wrapping up, Morgan wanted to show me a section of the burial ground that we missed at first glance. One that also inspired feelings of unease. So people are feeling a bit off as they come down here. I don't know. It's a little bit gassy. I don't know.
We should make sure before the sun goes down completely, maybe to get that stop sign over there.
Yeah, I might actually rip down there and do that now.
Well, she's bringing her EMF meter, so you might want to watch that.
We're getting slight spikes. There shouldn't be any spikes here. Back there was the only spike. There's one. It was low, it was 0.08, 0.02. There's nothing out here. And it's not coming from the ground, so this isn't water lines or something that's creating. But like, look at this, like everywhere else, it's like all these crosses are like honored, right?
Yeah, and this is totally different.
This is not.
And this place back here doesn't feel good.
Nope.
Right?
Like at all.
It feels like they don't want us to be here.
Yeah.
That's what we felt too.
And
It's
I
just
got this
not.
weird, all of a sudden I had this strange, I was just standing over there and everything turned like an orangey pink, you know, like in old time movies, that color, everything turned that color. And I was like, are you guys seeing this? And then all of a sudden it was gone. And it was, I've never experienced anything like that before.
At that, we left the burial ground to explore Mameo Beach in hope of another potential Wendigo encounter. But the rest of the night passed uneventfully, so we made the drive back to Edmonton in the dark. Which brings us back to the Wendigo sighting at Paul Lake, British Columbia. Shortly after receiving word of the encounter, Peter and I decided to conduct an investigation. It was summer, so not prime Wendigo conditions, but months had already passed and we didn't want to waste any more time. Although provided with a pin of the encounter site on Google Maps, we were unable to find the exact location on our drive up, the spot seemingly shifting on the map the closer we got. Also, the camera we were using to document our drive up malfunctioned, and the footage we filmed while trying to find the spot was corrupted. In the end, we pulled off on a logging road near the encounter site and decided to conduct our investigation there. If a Wendigo was indeed in these woods, we were confident we could find it. Coincidentally, this was also near a location where the team conducted a Bigfoot hunt a few years prior. No, I think if we waited till like September, this is it. This is the exact spot where we picked that up before.
Got a couple of new toys.
A new toys to show.
So these are, I call them ghost beacons, but they have ultrasonic microwave sensors inside them. So I'll put it over there and then it will send out signals all the way around. And as soon as the signal wavelength changes, these light up.
Oh, sweet.
So if something was there, it would pick it up. It has like a 3 meter radius, so.
Did you die in these woods? Yes?
Trying to play that back. Where are we near to where you died?
For the longest time, we received no tangible or intelligent responses to our questions, only the occasional comment coming through the speaker.
I'm going to hold my hand up and How many fingers am I holding up?
It's like a Star Wars droid.
R2D2. How many people are in this woods? Or this forest?
2?
2? What about yourself?
Then something happened that fit the modern Wendigo lore. I thought it was a whistling, but it was coming from over there. Was that you whistling then? Is there the spirit of a Wendigo here? Roaming these woods.
Is there anything you would like to say to us before we leave?
The whistling aside, not much occurred during our summer expedition, but the Wendigo is traditionally a winter creature, so we decided to return in the cold of a Canadian winter and continue our investigation with Olivier in tow. Only the winter weather we were promised never materialized as the months dragged on. Instead, we experienced a very fall-like winter with more rain than snow. However, that did not deter us from continuing our hunt for the alleged Paul Lake Wendigo. So what was that, Ollie?
Like, we just got here, and I mean, it could have been like a howl or something. It sounded like a scream.
Coming from?
Already. Right down. I don't know.
One creepy encounter out of the way, we grabbed our equipment and prepared to start our investigation.
So, I brought
the UFO
motion detector. So they're PIR, so they shouldn't be set off by just trees moving. It needs to have a heat signature. And more REM pods. Also brought a bell.
Let's set those up around here. I got a laser grid I can set up.
Oh, I brought a laser grid as well.
So we could set up, say, one that direction and then one that direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ollie, I'll set mine up aiming in at us. And maybe if you want to set your trail cam up facing towards where we're going to have the laser grids pointed that way. That way we should be able to get enough coverage on everything. So if there is something there, right, sun setting. As you can see, it's getting dark. So Ollie and I are going to do some whistles and calls and try to, maybe even like an EVP session, try to lure this out of here. See if we can get something.
I think the
whistles will be our best bet, I think, for now. Night vision.
Is that too bright?
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect, man.
It's cool because these lights are not visible to our eye, right?
No, not at all.
Once it gets dark, we're going to be able to see everything through the camera, but we're actually not going to see it with our eyes. There's some EVPs.
Yeah, we'll start with an EVP. All right.
See if we can catch anything.
Ready to start?
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone out here in the woods with us right now? We mean you no harm. We're just here to communicate.
They say the Wendigo has a ice cold heart.
Mm-hmm.
If we find it,
we have to shatter it and scatter it into a bunch of places, or put it in a box and put it on like a cemetery, church cemetery. How we're going to do that, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Got your rifle stock. I brought a silver blade.
Yeah, I think silver blade is the only way to.
Yeah. The EVP and whistling session complete, we decided to go over Olivier's audio to see if he caught anything of note.
Unfortunately, can't quite pick up what I heard.
No?
No, it doesn't. Not for the growl, anyways. I'm gonna say that one's. Well, this one sounds like a whistle, but again, we know there's loons.
Let's give it a listen.
Have it a go.
Hold that for me.
Oh, let's. There.
That's interesting.
Right? It says we're talking about whistling.
But it doesn't sound like a...
It's like a single note.
Yeah, right? Like birds go up and down, right? Like it's... So that, I find that interesting.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
We'll tag that one for sure.
Yeah. That's about what we can do.
Did you see something?
No. Caught my eye, but I think the trail cam was going.
True to form for such an investigation, as soon as I switched my camera off to make sure our footage was turning out, something unexpected happened about a foot behind where I was standing. Okay, that just went off.
Yeah, and the sensor is pointing on the other side of us. Like it's facing away from us.
Yeah.
So in that direction. Now, that is bizarre because this thing never goes off.
No, that's weird.
I just got goosebumps. And it's really, really close to us.
Like it was like right.
Yeah. And we've been here for how long and it hasn't gone off?
Yeah, like that's...
And it's not, no wind or branch moving is not going to set it off. It has to be something with the heat signature. So the fact that it just went off, that's unnerving to me.
Yeah, my skin is like... I'm jumping out of my...
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well, if you're here, can you wave in front of it again?
Maybe point this second one down there.
Hear that?
I did.
You rolling?
I'm rolling.
Yeah, it sounded like a big crash.
That was a big crash.
Or crack some big branch.
So we just saw a big crash down in the gully there.
It was loud enough that something... It was,
weight was down there.
Yeah, it was forceful.
Sean should be back soon. He's on my watch. It's almost been 40 minutes. Yeah.
I wonder if we're gonna catch anything on the trail camera. If you're here, can you show yourself? Is this your land? Are we allowed here?
Do you want us to leave? If you had enough of our antics tonight. That just shift on?
It did.
Like you can see, like looks like twinkling down there at the bottom. It's not even really showing up on camera much, but.
Can you move the trees? I don't know if many people would try the lure Wendigo.
Not gonna lie, I'm feeling kind of like an idiot for trying to lure it out now. I mean, you have to do it as a researcher, as a serious researcher. You have to try to validate these things, right? But with what's happened already tonight, it could be circumstance, or it could be something here. The trigger object I can't explain. Like there's no logical reason for that to go off. And I mean, even now, everything's firing in my body. Completely alert. That shifted again.
Did it?
Yep.
Just when I looked away.
Yep. And one of the lights, they're blinking out higher up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can see that. If we do hear it, I may run.
Yeah, I may run to the truck too. It's almost a straight line that way. The hour growing late, we decided to try the Estes Method as a last attempt to make contact with a potential spirit in the woods. When I turn it on nights,
I have no idea where that is, or I can't read any of
oh,
this
no, it's
stuff.
fine. So, maybe...
That looks really awesome, actually, right there.
So record this now, because I'll explain what we're doing.
Yeah,
recording?
I'm recording.
Okay, so Sean's back. He brought the spirit box. Ollie and I are now going to do the Estes Method. So he will be listening to the spirit box with headphones on. I'm going to be asking questions. He can't hear the questions that I'm asking, but the theory is if we actually get in contact with something, he will speak for whatever it is we're communicating with. So given what's happened here tonight, some compelling things, we're going to see if we can actually make contact with something now. This is kind of the last bit we're doing on this investigation.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows how the spirit box work. Yeah, essentially it just scans through the radio channels really quickly, and in between those channels in the dead space sometimes when you can hear voices.
Yeah, when something breaks through the static.
That's right.
And out here we're far enough away that we shouldn't pick up too many radio signals anyways, because the range on this is only 20 meters basically.
Yeah, and I have the option on this box to turn off the antenna so that we're not picking up unnecessary stuff. So let's give it a go.
I guess probably be best, Ollie, if you stood facing away from me so you can't read my lips, just in case.
I will close my eyes. Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Wish me luck.
Good luck. Still looks okay, Sean?
Looks great.
Awesome. Oh, that went off again.
Already?
Already.
All right, let's
do
let's
it.
go back.
Let's do it.
I'm going to turn it up higher because I think I've heard some faint stuff.
Can I tell you something about LED lights and RF frequencies?
Yep.
They interfere with each other.
Do they?
Yeah. just so you know.
Just so you know? Okay.
LED lights?
Yeah.
So the main thing on here is a PIR sensor.
So like it's like for that, I mean, like they could be doing each other. So like at our casino, our radios, we moved to a digital signal, and the LED lights that are involved in all the slot machines interfere with them like mad.
Okay, interesting.
So like I know the radio frequency will get like REM pods to give false readings. Yeah, I'm not sure about.
That's cool though.
Let's see if that did it again. I mean, who knows? That's good to know that, Sean. No, I've
you got pitch all over this thing now.
Because I pitch all over my hands. All right. Let's try this.
Going in.
Wish
me luck.
Good luck.
Is there anyone out here in the woods with us right now? Any sort of spirit? If so, are you what set off the motion sensors earlier? Did you whistle at us? Is there a forest spirit with us?
Keep talking.
Are you hungry?
We are.
Who are you? How many are you? Those were the only two responses we heard for the rest of the session, so we decided to call it a night. What do you think, Ollie?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, we've had a couple interesting things, but not a big sign of the Wendigo.
No. I mean, did I expect there to be? I don't know. But
something's out there. I mean, we're just going to have to look for more.
Yeah, I think so. But let's get back to town.
Yeah.
More so than any other paranormal phenomenon, the Wendigo doesn't fit into a nice, neat little box. It's not purely a cryptid, but it's not a spirit either. There's elements of possession and psychosis, and it's born out of a culture different from our own, which makes it all the more mysterious and elusive. Whatever the Wendigo is, belief in it is powerful. It's also frightening in a way I don't associate with ghosts, lake monsters, or Sasquatch. The more we explored the Wendigo, the more questions we had than answers. The Wendigo stands at the crossroads of folklore and psychology. It's a symbol of colonial trauma, of isolation and starvation, and the terrifying truths about what we are capable of when all hope is lost. Whether spirit, monster, or metaphor, the Wendigo remains a chilling reminder of the thin line between man and monster.